everything you've seen is part of the story. But I'm reminded of what Oksana said earlier today. And she painted a picture for what it takes for any kind of project like this to occur. It takes all of you, people like Howie, who's been working for decades, so many in this room, so many others who are not in this room, all of whom do work along the way. And then some things come together. So for those of us who are working with Friends of Toki, cool, thank you. Good, much appreciated, thank you. So for all of you and all of us who happen to be doing this right at this moment, Friends of Toki, we have that name, DBA, Friends of Lolita. We could be Friends of Scully Shaktanaw, that'll come next. But we just happen to be the people at the moment who were able to get together to take the next step. And none of it's about us or about even all of you. It's simply about Toki. And that's what keeps us going every day. So I just want to take a moment to show you Toki even in the last few days. There we go. Now I'm doing Howie. Ah, okay, so this is Toki within the last few days. And what Howie was mentioning is really what it's about. A robust, active whale. 6 months ago, 8 months ago, 10 months ago, she would spend her time in one of two places. Her trainers called one part her bedroom, another part the office. Office was where she went for food, bedroom was where she hung out. No longer. Now she's active every day, doing things on her own as well as with her training team. She is spending very little time in the bedroom, very little time in her office. She explores what's still a very tiny, inappropriate place, but she's exploring it on her own. She's moving through it actively, and she is much more engaged, whether it's with the training team or even on her own and with Lee. So this should be a video. But in any case, what I have, this video would show Toki and Lee playing together. So there have been all kinds of questions of, do they have a relationship or do they not have a relationship? Are they companions or simply two animals placed in the same place? In these last months, what we're seeing is tremendous interaction of them where they play with one another. One will be pushing the other one to do something, the other one shows up. So we're seeing this engagement of the two of them that really we were not seeing before. And I apologize for the video. When we went from formatting changes, it didn't. The other things that are beginning to happen now, as we look forward to what could be next steps, it's important that everything that Toki may be exposed to in the future, she begins to be introduced to. So obviously, one thing will be a stretcher for her to be transported in. Now, she hasn't been in a stretcher, and they haven't used one in this park, unfortunately, for any purpose. Whereas, hopefully, years ago, they would have started her getting used to it. And then for medical interventions and the like, she could have been in it and raised and been accessible to the veterinary staff. But that was never used. But she's been introduced to it now, so initially just seeing it. Last week, it was in the pool with her, where she's playing with it a little bit, where she gets used to it. Then over time, she will swim into it, and she'll begin to have that experience so that nothing in the future that she may experience is more stressful than it might be if she was not introduced. So all of that is part of the conditioning going forward. And then this too won't matter. This is her doing an exceptionally fast swim that you're only seeing still. So what I would suggest, let's close these off. They don't matter. We're done with those. No, I don't think so. If you can. But in any case, what I really think all of you want to do is ask questions about what's going on. So Howie and I talked about that, and we're purposely trying to get this done so that we can be responsive to your questions. Let me give you a little background. This is not a done deal. There's a tremendous amount of work that has to be done. What's beautiful about it in terms of that work, and we'll talk about some of the real struggles and real difficulties about it. But what is beautiful is part of what Howie said. You've got the Dolphin Company, a group that, you know, the chances of any one of us wanting to spend time in any one of their facilities is really slim and none. But without working with the Dolphin Company, without having a way to find some areas of collaboration and cooperation, some areas where you can have a trusting conversation, you don't get anywhere. That's partly what Pritam Singh brought to this project. He brought $1 million too. But more importantly than the $1 million, he opened a door to talk with Eduardo. I started writing to Eduardo in October of 2021 saying, let us bring in independent veterinarians. We're reading these horrible stories. Let's bring in some vets who can truly assess and report publicly on a monthly basis about our health and welfare. And Eduardo wrote back and said, when we buy the park, let's talk. But then it took... Yeah, we try it. Just give it a whirl. Let's see if someone can see. Yeah, you've got it. That'll... No, it says QuickTime's not available. So let it go.
Welcome to the Mac.
Yeah, no, it was me on a Mac, and this is a PC. It's been a lot of my life. And so in any case, you have to have that ability for trust. So Pritam was also writing to Eduardo. He and I had not met. Well, we had actually met 20 years before, but we had forgotten that we had met. And Pritam was saying, let's do a press conference. We planned a press conference, and Eduardo asked, I'll meet with you if you'll not do the press conference until after we meet. And that's how we ended up getting first around the table with Eduardo. And by doing that, we found if we focus 100% on Toki, and that's the discussion and nothing else about the rest of the work he's doing or other work we may be doing. And Pritam's also the chairman of Sea Shepherd. I mean, this is not the group you'd expect to be together. But because we focused on Toki, we could have these conversations. And that's what it has been every day since. Now we have our ups and downs. We have things that are crazy. Everything Howie said about the pool was correct. But the first thing we did was invest about $600,000 in new infrastructure so that her pool yesterday, was at 52 degrees, while Biscayne Bay is at 97 degrees, and that's the incoming water. So we're able to keep her life support system, the water, with good quality, good salinity, reasonable pH, and we have people inspect it every day. Some of the trainers there now were trainers who were with her in the 90s. 3 of the people working with her now were trainers working with her in the 90s, and one of them is a Miami Seaquarium person who's been with her the last 20 years. So what does that do? It gives us that continuity of what is her life then, what is her life now, how do we work with her in the most appropriate ways. So we have a full-time team of staff that's there, 3 veterinarians that are consulting, 1 who's there all the time working with their vets because they do have custody. We are still there as guests, but we're operating every aspect of her work and her life with a team of people that's committed to doing everything that we can for her health and welfare. So how's her health? She has a chronic infection. She's had it, as far as we know, for perhaps decades. But it's less pronounced than it was 6 months ago. In October of 2022, she had a terrible setback. We thought we'd lose her. She was on injectable antibiotics. We were able to get special dispensation from the Food and Drug Administration to bring in the oral antibiotic that's the equivalent of it, so she can be on oral antibiotics and not have to have the injections that are very difficult for her and for whom it's difficult for her to stay still for that many injections a day. She's getting 60% less antibiotic than she was then, and she has had no relapses of that kind at all. The only issue she's had in the interim, she has some gastric problems every once in a while. She gets some Pepto-Bismol-like medication for that. She's eating well, she's active, she's strong, she is incredibly robust, and she is now doing things on her own that these trainers, both the one with 20 years experience and those in the 90s, haven't seen her do on her own in all of that time. Her veterinarians do believe she is healthy enough for transport. That doesn't mean she's ready to be transported. What it means is her health is at a level where they're confident that transport would not compromise her health or her welfare in any way. And so that's a step in the right direction. The permitting has begun. We are in discussion, personally, myself and our team, with the National Marine Fisheries Service. For the reasons Howie mentioned, USDA and APHIS are not necessarily at the table. They don't need to be at this stage. We're in discussion with all of the state agencies. There's a coordinating committee of the governor's office that coordinates state permitting. We've already met with them. They've briefed the executive team of the governor. I've briefed all the agencies in the state. And we've begun what is the most important first step. And that's the consultation, not only with WUMI, but with all 9 tribes that are involved in any water activity in the state. 5 of them have usual and customary fishing rights, and they have to be personally, as a council for each tribe, involved. That work is underway as well. So, Thanksgiving, as Jim says, what I like to say about Jim, and I talk to him all the time, he's an amazing person, quite a character, real friend at this stage. He is our head cheerleader. He will continue to push us in every way to do this faster than is humanly possible. And that's the kind of push we should have. So is that date a real date? I'll leave that to be Jim's idea. It's not realistic. It's not going to happen by Thanksgiving. But we're going to do this as responsibly and expeditiously as it can be done. So, happens every time I talk about Keiko too. Anyway, it is a privilege to do this work. You don't get to do it unless you try. And it's the most, I'm sorry. Now, it's, you get to do it every morning and just work like hell. I've not been in the audience most of the time. Why? I'm on the phone doing the same thing I would be doing anywhere else, because that's what happens every day for this work to go forward. Whether it's whale sanctuary work, or in Toki's case, it's far more intense because of where we are in the process. But that is what it takes. Not from me alone. I'm just one of the guys. But it takes it from every single person involved. Mike Partica, our lead trainer, I've talked to him 10 times today about issues that crop up for him. The other day, there was a sump pump back up in the trailer with the toilets. So you got to fix the toilets. These are the things that go on every single day. And you have to be that focused, that committed, and have that much fun, because there's nothing else you could do that would be any more rewarding or any more fun. And the only reason is for one whale. And that's the case, I think, for all of us doing this work, is we're doing it for all of the whales, but the way we get it done for one is what will happen for each. You have to have the focus for one to do the next. And that's what I think this is about. So with that, too much emotion, I think, but that's who I am. You get older, you'll find this is what happens to you. And so I just want to be sure we can answer some questions as well. So we got a few minutes before we'll stop up to do this again. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thanks so much for what you're doing. My understanding is that Scully's pathogenic load is still fairly high. And of course, that's a problem for Millennium's issuing a permit for her to be placed in these waters. What are they telling you in the negotiation?
Okay, so the question is about pathogen load. How about pathogen transfer? Is that an issue for permitting alike? Yes, yes, and yes. So the primary concerns of the National Marine Fisheries Service are two. One of them is the potential for pathogen transfer in any way, transmissible disease from Toki to any of the other southern residents or other critters as well, and vice versa, what she might catch in this environment. One issue. The other issue for them is, what about acoustic interference with wild whales? Now, why would that be a problem? For many of us in this group, our concern would be the opposite. But why it's an issue is because the southern residents are an endangered species. So anything, whether it's Toki or us or anyone else, who might change their behavior in any way, that is a violation of the Endangered Species Act. That's a take. That's harassment. So we have to look at those issues responsibly in every way to do this right. So we're in fact now engaged in modeling pathogen transfer from orca below and through the water column with a modeling agent, a company that does this work for human disease transfer. And we're modeling that for the marine environment for the first time ever. And we're doing that work so that we will understand what those issues are, because we must be responsible in how we do this. And secondly, we're doing the same with respect to acoustics. And we're modeling that with respect to specific sites throughout the San Juans as we look at the site selection.
Dave, the question about pathogens was answered to my satisfaction by Stephanie Norman, who is one of the veterinarians, one of the 5 veterinarians that is tending to Toki, and she's also been our Orca Network stranding veterinarian of record for over 2 decades, and she is an epidemiologist. And she became aware at a conference that she was at a few months ago of a new DNA pathogen detector that you're able to just feed in the blood samples from Toki, and it will test for a range of every known pathogen by matching DNA. So it's a really quick analysis and very effective. So she'll be tested for any kind of pathogen before she comes out here and given a clean bill of health before she moves.
That works. Go on. Yes, ma'am.
So I have a two-part question. The dolphin or 2 dolphins that live with Toki now?
One lives with her now.
One lives with her now. Now, are they subjected to the same pathogens and things that are affecting Toki right now? And the dolphin's coming with, right?
The transport of the dolphin Lee that's with her, and Lee's mate is Loki. Loki's in a different part of the park, also not open for public display. And they have an offspring that's also with Loki in the back. But the issue with respect that there are different regulations for moving the white-sided dolphins than moving her. The objective would be to keep her companion animal Lee with her, and we have to go through that both together and separately from a regulatory standpoint.
So you mentioned before, you asked the question, are they friends or are they just in the tank together? So was there an answer to that?
From all of the data we're seeing, and we have shown to the National Marine Fisheries Service, their concerns about whether or not there is a relationship have been basically answered by what we've shown them. So our belief is they're companions. They've been that way together. They certainly seek each other out throughout the day for play. That was the video I was going to. It's on our website, by the way. Yeah.
For Howard, can you deconstruct Toki's native name?
Can I say it?
Can you deconstruct it? Because there's
Yes.
parts of the word that
Skalichaktanut. Skalichak is the name of a village in Penn Cove, on the shore of Penn Cove, where she was captured. And Tanat is the female, what do they call that? At the end of a word. Anyway, it's the female connotation. Yeah, yeah. So it means sort of, woman of Penn Cove in a way, if you want to really, Englishize it. But, it's the native tie to that place as a family member. That's what a person from that place would be called.
Thank
I have a question for you. Howard, you've been advocating for children for decades and decades. And my wish, and I think everybody's in here, is that you could go to the aquarium, that you would be invited to go there to see her. I would happily donate towards your expenses to do so, and I'm just hoping you get me right.
Thank you, Diane.
And Charles, it's hurricane season. She's living in a condemned, crumbling environment. We've all seen photos. What's your evacuation plan if there's a direct hit?
Sure. There's, as you've seen, the area is certainly, obviously, Miami subject to hurricanes. You have to have a hurricane plan. Most buildings do. Let me clarify a couple things and how he did it correctly earlier. The tank itself that she is in, that concrete area, is not crumbling. The area around it, it's not. Fact is fact. It's not crumbling. What is at risk is the stadium itself that's around it. So you see the chain link fence around there that is there to keep people from going up. Now, there are only 10 of us allowed at a time, so we're not going up anyway. But first thing that happens if a hurricane is not just imminent, but anywhere near, is all of that chain link fence comes out. Because what you want to remove immediately is anything that can go into the water where she is. If you look at how animals have been harmed in any of these circumstances, it's generally things that are coming in that compromise their environment or hit them. So the hurricane plan is first removal of all of those items that are there. Secondly, it's making sure her life support system is sustainable no matter what happens. So therefore, you already have on site generators that will keep all of the pumps, all of the cooling systems, all of the water quality systems operating when the power goes out. That equipment is already on site, tested, we brought it in. Next, you bring in the personnel. Who are the people who stay, as opposed to when the storms were there with Palace Entertainment, when she was left alone? Who are the people and the veterinarians that are on site with her, no matter what the storms are? What's their equipment? All the hard hats, all the gear they need, all the heavy equipment that they may need to sustain her no matter what. In addition, all of her food is no longer purchased through the Miami Seaquarium system. It's purchased independently by us. We have next to her trailer 2 freezer trucks and a cooling truck for all of her food. Not just for storms, this is permanently what we're doing. It'll come with her when she comes home. And all of that equipment is available to be used, hooked up to the generators, so her food supply system is secure no matter what happens. Now, could there be a catastrophic storm that we have not have the equipment or the ability to handle? Of course there could be. There are risks every day, no matter what you do in this kind of work or in any work. She could die tomorrow of an illness we never knew. So could you, and so could I. But what you do is prepare in every way that you can for everything you can think you could possibly prepare for. You get the equipment in place and the people who have the expertise to do it, and that's what we're doing. Yes.
This isn't so much of a question, but this is for you, Howard. I know you don't like credit, but you have spent countless decades championing for Lolita, and I know that myself and probably a lot of people here heard of Lolita because of the tireless work that you did. So I think we should all take a moment to thank Howard.
Thank you, London. Thank you, Charles. Thank you. I could name everybody here and say thank you. And 1,000 people, tens of thousands around the world who have worked so hard. Thank you all. You brought us to where we are, and we're close.
Thank you both.
And that, that's exactly right. When we started, I mentioned Exxon at the beginning, and I think that's the way to end. It does take all of you. Howard, remarkable work over a long time. Your brother starting earlier as well. And so it is that which is so important. And so it is everyone here who gets the credit, but it's people like Howie who kept it going to enable us to be where we are. Without that work over time, we wouldn't be standing here. So that's well said, appropriate, and the right way to end. Thank you.